So ironically, Daryl Morey continues to run his mouth. Ever since the NBA China incident, you would think he would calm down. And yet his comments is making a lot of rounds through the media because he talked about the 2020 bubble and some of the sentiments behind the scenes of how people feel like that championship has an asterisk to it. Now, while Daryl Morey is throwing stones from a glass house, he unexpectedly has a lot of media members as well as the fan bases looking underneath his hood. And surprisingly, Joel Embiid dropped some recent statements on some of his mistrusting with the 76ers. So in this segment, we're going to go over these two dynamics. But first, to start off, we're going to hear what Daryl Morey originally had to say.
Had the Rockets won the title, I absolutely would have celebrated. It is legitimate, knowing the immense effort and resilience required. Yet, everyone I speak to around the league privately agrees that it doesn't truly hold up as a genuine championship. Perhaps the lasting legacy of the NBA bubble is that the NBA should be proud of its leadership at both the beginning and end of the pandemic, even though the champion will forever be marked by an asterisk.
Now, in the earlier portion of his statement, he said had the Rockets won the championship in that bubble, he would have definitely have celebrated it. And when it comes to that 2020 NBA championship, there's a lot of nuances to it. And it shouldn't really be discussed as a throwaway championship. Yeah, it was pretty unusual. There was about a 4-month break. Most teams played about 72 games. In the league at the time, in order to satisfy their contracts with their TV partners, they had to at least play 72 games. So those final games at Disney World that started up in August all the way through October was still not easy to go through. A lot of NBA players normally time when they have their children. So during the summer months, their kids tend to pop out. And there were a lot of players going in and out the bubble for that reason. And also in order to come back to the team, and a lot of players had to go through protocols. And mentally, it was tough. The world was going through a pandemic. A lot of people were dying due to the virus. And this did play out for one of the main contending teams that season, which is the 2020 LA Clippers. Montrezl Harrell lost his grandmother, and it completely changed the aura of that team. But at the end of the day, that championship is still legit because NBA fans got something that we never really seen before. And with no fans and any extra spectacles around the court, we got to see the best of the best just go up against each other with the hardwood floors. Sneakers were squeaking, there was no distractions. You even had players like TJ Warren looking like Michael Jordan out here, averaging 40 points a game. The bubble was crazy, but it was straight up basketball, no distractions. Just the way that season played out, even with the finals happening in October. Normally, these kind of nuances never really get talked about. But there always has been an aura around that 2020 championship as if it didn't count because there was no parade, there was no fans in the stands. Even Alex Caruso, most recently in this year's finals, has sort of even acknowledged that as he reflected from being part of the 2025 Oklahoma City Thunder championship.
A championship is a championship, but there were 70 people in the gym when you won your first one.
Yeah.
How much better?
Probably like 150, but
maybe 100, maybe even 200. But
maybe.
How much better does this one feel?
Yeah, now I got a real one. Now nobody can say anything. Good basketball is good basketball. Winning basketball is winning basketball. And the best team can win no matter what happens if you go out there and execute and do the stuff that you need to do to win the game.
And that right there is the reason why there should never be an asterisk on the Lakers 2020 championship. The same dynamics were still at play. But you can even make an argument the mental aspect had to even be more on point. And that's where LeBron James' true leadership showed in that situation. But not all championships are created equal. Because if that was the case, Bill Russell would be the GOAT. But the reason why he doesn't necessarily get that credit is that in the era that he played, there was only a limited number of NBA teams. So when discussing certain championships, the nuances need to be brought up. So if we can touch base on some of those dynamics for Bill Russell's rings, we could do the same thing for the 2020 championship. They both count, but there were definitely certain nuances that did take place within those time frames. But Richard Jefferson and Kendrick Perkins had touched base on some of Daryl Morey's statements. And with the spotlight being on him, they started looking at some of his credentials and what's been going on with the 76ers as of recently. A lot of truths are starting to unfold, especially with Joel Embiid in his most recent statements. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
5 years later, one, I don't even know if Daryl Morey was in the bubble, right? Like, I don't even know if he was there, right? Like, that's what I want to know. That's number one. Number two, we're not going to start this asterisk by the bubble championship. I wasn't in the bubble, but I did cover the bubble. I was on television, and I was watching when guys were getting eliminated, and I was seeing some of the guys. Damian Lillard said it felt like he did a bid. It felt like he was in jail. Like it tested your mental toughness. One could argue that it's probably one of the hardest championships to accomplish. Forget an asterisk. When you talk about being away from your family, being basically locked up in one place and probably having to eat the same damn food every single day.
Yep, that nasty ass cafeteria food that they were eating. I mean, these guys are multi-millionaire athletes. Some of them even have personal chefs. And the food was so bad that even Kawhi Leonard was cooking up tacos for the Clipper players. A lot of these guys were going through it after the games because any activities as well as practice was limited because people would have to go through certain protocols to even be all in the same place together. Even Jimmy Butler came up with his coffee business that he's running pretty successfully today.
Well, God knows what type of practice course they had to do, seeing your opponent on a day-to-day basis, figuring out certain things. The pandemic was a toll on everybody in the world, let alone guys having to go down there and compete at the highest level. Also, you don't have the fans, which some people say, oh, well, that's a reason to put an asterisk by it. No, it's not. It's even harder to be motivated, right? It's even harder to be motivated when.
And it took away that circus-like environment with fans, mascot, cheerleaders, a lot of outside things besides the game going on the court. So with an environment that looks like that, that's where you had a lot of role players, guys like TJ Warren having multiple games where he's dropping 40 points a night. These guys were just straight up in a gym, and it probably felt more like a scrimmage instead of a nationally televised professional game.
You don't have fans there when you're down 10 to 15 points. If you're at a home game, your fans can help you get through games of having home court advantage. If that's the case, then we can all say, you know what? Every lockout year, when the Spurs won it and the Miami Heat won it, let's put an asterisk by theirs too. Because
wait, Perk, and don't forget that we did the bubble year, then went right into another season a month later. We remember that wasn't a normal season. We gloss over that we went into who won the championship after the Lakers? Bucks. So again, remember we had another season. So remember we had 3 champions in like 18 months. All of that got screwed. Now I was in the bubble. I spent the last 40 days of the bubble. I was there to cover the conference finals and the finals. And when I tell you it was a mental toughness stretch, for anybody that says it, tell me why there's an asterisk.
And it definitely was a mental stretch, even for the people covering the league. That's how Malika Andrews had her rise to be the front-facing anchor for ESPN. A lot of her colleagues did not want to leave their families at home to go into that bubble. She was knee-deep covering every aspect of the game and what was going on with the players. Love her or hate her, she earned that spot to be one of the front-facing anchors for that network.
Every player had the exact same formula. Every player had the exact same courts. Every player had to deal with no crowd. Home court advantage was taken away. That favors the lesser teams. There's no crowds. Younger players play better at home. Role players play better at home. So now every game is a home game.
And some of the role players low-key play better with no crowds. A lot of the games definitely had a rec center feel to it.
For the young players, every game is a home game for the role players. These are statistically proven facts. Young players play better at home. Role players play better at home. So you negate all of that and you put them in one gym and you say the last man standing. The Lakers were the number 1 team all year long. They were dominant, top 2 all year long. One of the best defenses all year long. And now 5 years later, we're going to look at that. That's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I just don't believe that unless you were in there and you had to play it and deal with the mental toughness that it required. There were shortened seasons with Miami, shortened seasons with the Spurs. Are you going to say anything about those organizations? You can put multiple asterisks on multiple seasons. But I know for a fact that the Lakers had to go in there and they outlasted every single team. Tell Jimmy Butler, who almost died of exhaustion leaning over, that there was going to be an asterisk. That is BS. That is people wanting to downplay it. And that's the part that, like, okay, fine, you're entitled to your opinion, but it's not factually based.
And a lot of the people that are downplay it tend to be those that are addicted to the back and forth of the GOAT conversation between Jordan and LeBron. I'm sure when someone brings up the ring count, the idea probably gets thrown out there that the 2020 championship doesn't count. But again, when discussing these dynamics, a lot of nuances need to get brought up, because if you truly want to do a ring count, you should count Bill Russell's. But the reason why a lot of the NBA community as a whole does not necessarily look at it that way, because they factor in the nuances of the league at the time having a lot less teams.
Denver came back from multiple 3-1s. And 2 shooting percentages were up. Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson were because there was no crowds, there was no booing, there was no heckling. So I'm saying that it was more difficult because it was more of a level playing field. It's just the truth.
We had some all-time great performances in the bubble postseason.
Facts. That Donovan Mitchell versus Jamal Murray does not get talked about enough. Also with Jokic, that was his warning to the rest of the league that he was on his way. Maybe years from now, when they look back at his career when he retires, they're going to look at that 2020 bubble series with the Clippers as his true rise into performing at a high level against great teams.
Remember, like Dame Dollar, what he did in the play-in tournament to get
Devin Booker
to face the Lakers, Devin Booker, right? You remember the battle between Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray? Like Jamal Murray and them coming back and bouncing back down 3-1. The fucking numbers that LeBron and AD put up.
Woo, AD. That doesn't get talked about enough either. For Laker fans, that was prime AD. That was the best version that they saw of AD the whole time that he was there. And some of you could check the replay of those finals. After game 1 and 2, AD was really the front runner for MVP, especially because of his defense. But him getting hurt in, I believe, game 3 or 4, that right there really cost him from getting that trophy. In the first 2 games, he was getting the defensive stops, he was getting the clutch buckets, AD was doing everything. LeBron was killing it too, don't get me wrong, but AD was doing it at both ends of the floor.
The NBA Finals in the bubble, Jimmy Butler had like a 40-point triple-double in the, like, we had some all-time great performances in the bubble.
This is one thing real hoopers know. Put us in a gym. This goes back to your AAU days, right? When you're battling against the number 10 player or the number 2 team. Put us in a gym. There's 70 people in there, and we're going to battle it out like our lives depended on it. Put us in a gym. Let us go to work. Get all the crowds out of here. Get all the BS out of here. It is 10 guys versus 10 guys, and we are going at it. This is pride. And that to me reminded me of old school competitive AAU high school basketball, where the environments were very, very like chill. It wasn't a college environment. It wasn't NBA. It was AAU, the basketball that you grew up in. That's what it felt like to me.
This is basically the hardwood floors and the empty stands. And I'm talking about those long bench stands. That's the aura and feeling a lot of those games give you, even watching it today. If you catch the replays online in a platform like YouTube, etc. The bubble really showed you that fans in the stands with all the hooplas, the celebrities courtside, that really changed the whole dynamic of how the game even feels. So going back to the original reason of why we're reflecting on the 2020 bubble and Daryl Morey making those statements, now we're going to look underneath his hood. As almost in a reverse Uno card, the spotlight is now on him and what's going on with the 76ers, and looking at his quick historical rise, as being known as one of the better GMs in the NBA, but that really has been proven to be media narrative due to the fact that he's so analytically driven. Don't get me wrong, Daryl Morey is a great deal maker. He did prove with the James Harden move to the Rockets, originally from OKC, that he did have a good eye for potential star talent. And he's a great deal maker when it comes to the trades. That guy was pulling rabbits out of his ass. I don't know how the hell he was pulling these moves. But at the end of the day, with all the talent that he's seen come through the door, he has not even one finals appearance. And as of right now, things are not looking too good in Philly.
Again, I think Daryl Morey has done good things. I think there's areas in which he has struggled, just like any coach, just like any player. For a player, like Perk says, for your organization to be in the state that you are in, for you to have never won a championship as an executive, but one of the most well-known executives and has had all NBAs and MVPs, to never have won a championship, I'm okay with you talking about the mental state that people were in the bubble, but I just find it difficult for you to downplay someone else's championship where you have yet to go through that path.
Now, after yet another lackluster season for the 76ers where they dealt with injuries as well as guys not necessarily being up to par, especially Paul George for the 40 games he was on the floor. Keep in mind the 76ers do have a narrow window to capitalize on Joel Embiid's opportunity to compete for a championship. He came into the league with durability issues, and as he ages, he's getting into his early 30s. His situation was really never meant to last long. He's already been through a whole saga in Philly before leading up to this point, dealing with the whole Ben Simmons fiasco, getting rid of Jimmy Butler and keeping Tobias Harris during that offseason after losing to Kawhi Leonard and the Raptors. That was a move that Jimmy Butler let it be known that he had issues with the way Ben Simmons was carrying himself, and the 76ers let him walk because of that clash. Also before then, the Markelle Fultz situation, them getting rid of the Jason Tatum pick, getting Fultz, and that being dragged out for a season or two, which led to nothing. Also the James Harden beef with Daryl Morey after he almost came to the team as a get out of jail free card from the whole Ben Simmons saga. But yet again, the 76ers got another get out of jail free card with their draft pick Tyrese Maxey, who come up real quick as a 21st pick and proved to be a nice co-star next to Joel Embiid for that 1-2 punch with the pick and roll. And of course, the final part that we're up to now with Paul George coming into the team as a free agent, but injuries even before he arrived to the team and current day is breaking his body down, so he's not lasting as long. Now that has led the 76ers to getting a top 3 pick in the lottery. Embiid's head must be spinning because trust me, mine is right now just having a recollection of all this. But within that interview that he gave this offseason, he let it be known that the 76ers rushing him back to play injured has put him in the position that he's at now. Let's check it out.
Feeding into the pressure of you got to play, got to go out there, can't let people down. That's probably one of the reasons why I'm in this position now.
With the narrow window that he has, the fact that the 76ers still owe him $193 million until the 28-29 season, the pressure is definitely on. Because since joining the 76ers in 2014, out of 880 games, he's only played about 450. So for his career so far, he has almost as equal amount of games missed as games played. And who knows, with the statement we just heard, he could be questioning the 76ers overall as far as how they're looking out for his well-being. But he also revealed that he has some trust issues with the 76ers. Remember the story of Tyrese Maxey calling him out during a team meeting? Those two guys have a really great relationship, so it's out of love. But why did the information leak out the very next day? You guys check out what he had to say.
Whoever leaked that is a real piece of shit. I know who leaked it, but I'm not going to say. The past is the past. The one thing I'll say is, it's hard being around people that do those sorts of stuff. That goes back to the trust thing. Once you cross that shit, you can't expect me to be part of a team meeting again. That's just not going to happen.
Now, I'm not a fucking detective, but I can get a magnifying glass and put it real close to the 76ers and just look through their paperwork historically, as this organization kept the information really tight about what was going on with Markelle Fultz when he had arrived and his elbow injury, or just his injury overall. Most NBA fans, even to this day, outside of 76ers fans, don't know what happened to him. Same thing for Ben Simmons. There was always a lot of chirping what was going on behind the scenes with him and Embiid. but nothing leaked out. But all of a sudden, when Daryl Morey arrives in 2020, and a few seasons later, him and James Harden have that back and forth about his contract extension. Out of nowhere, information started to leak out. And of course, tying this all in most recently, the situation with Tyrese Maxey calling out Embiid. This is where shit kind of gets fishy. Let's see. We have Carmelo Anthony, James Harden, Chris Paul, Patrick Beverley. They all have one thing in common. They've all appeared on multiple media platforms calling Daryl Morey a liar. But hey, we'll see where this gets at. With these kind of optics going against Joel Embiid, his days in Philly could be numbered. You guys definitely hit up the link in the description below. We got more NBA stories like this. Also different kinds of playlists on game film, mixed in with a little bit of storytelling and certain nuances. Until next time, you fellas stay safe. Peace.